Hey, welcome back to the Missouri Sports Network, MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage. Certainly glad that you have tuned in. This segment brought to you by Central Bank of the Ozarks, Shelter Insurance Agents Grant Baker in Aurora and Sean Holman in Lockwood. And as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol reminds us to take that 3 seconds and buckle up. It's 3 seconds that could save your life. Be safe, be smart, and be here tomorrow. And pleased to be joined now by the publisher and lead writer for Chiefs Digest at chiefsdigest.com and a local Springfield guy here, Matt Derrick. Matt, thanks so much for your time today.
Absolutely, Guy. I follow Missouri Sports Network to keep up on all the Hillcrest scores and everything else going on.
Hey, you bet. A Hillcrest grad, going back to, we won't say the year. I'm going to say 2010. So just recently. No. But, tell us just a little bit about just your story, how you arrived where you are now. You are the publisher and lead writer for Chiefs Digest. Obviously, I hear you when I hear Andy Reid's press conferences. I hear you ask questions, and folks want to that for someone that may be aspiring to do a little bit about something like what you do. How did you arrive at where you are right now?
Yeah, I took the world's longest route to what I'm doing right now. I grew up in Springfield, went to Hillcrest, was editor of the paper. I was actually in the first year of Dave Davis's media program. Over there at Hillcrest, which obviously has been so successful and won a lot of awards. We didn't win any awards year one, so we were just getting started. But Coach Davis helped me get an internship at Meyer Communications, which was KTXR. I managed to turn that into a job, so I worked there through my first couple of years of college, going to Missouri State, transferred to Missouri, was a journalism major, emphasized in broadcasting, and then proceeded not to go into broadcasting. I bounced around in some sales and writing jobs for a couple of years until I actually ended up in public relations. And I spent about 15 years in public relations, working for some trade associations, worked for a big cable company. Eventually went my own way, starting my own shingle in public relations and communications. And one of my first clients was a friend of mine, Herbie Tiopi, who wanted to start Chiefs Digest, and I helped him get the website up and going, and did a little writing in the background. And then Herbie got a job covering the Saints in New Orleans, and he asked me if I wanted to take over the site. And I obviously, I mean, sports had been a big part of my life forever. I mean, even when I was a little kid. And going into sports broadcasting and journalism was one of my original goals until I got sidetracked. So yeah, I mean, it was a chance to really just take a dive, see what happens for a few years. Wasn't sure that it would work. Thought I might be 1 year and done. But here we are, 6 seasons in now that I've been covering the Chiefs, and still here and moving along. So it's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work, but getting a chance to work with a lot of great people. Been very fortunate, and it's like I said, it's been a very roundabout route from where I started to where I am now. But it's been a journey, I'll say that.
And what skills did you develop, coming through that, with PR, public relations, those skills that you developed there had to have been beneficial to you for what you're doing now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I have always felt that, especially when I was in public relations, I felt like that the best things that you could probably have experienced for that job was, one, being a journalist yourself at some point. It helps you understand what journalists need. Honestly, and as much as I hated sales and was terrible at it, once again, you pick up things and it forces you to do some things that probably translates pretty well into that. But even then, on the other side, I mean, as a journalist now, I kind of, from my PR days, I understand a little bit of the background about how people think and how these teams and leagues are, run. So, yeah, it gives you a little bit of an insight to maybe navigate the process a little bit easier at times.
And how exciting is it, to be a part of a run here over the past 3 seasons? The Chiefs have an opportunity now, I guess 4 seasons. They went to 3 consecutive AFC championship games, 2 Super Bowls, an opportunity now. What's that been like to be, in the stadium and in the room, interviewing these players and coaches?
Yeah, there's not really a day goes by that I don't try to remind myself to pinch myself about where I am. I tell the Chiefs I'm a good luck charm because I started covering this team in July of 2016, and I have never covered a team that didn't win the AFC West. They've won it every year since I've been on the beat, so I figure that they better make sure I never go anywhere. But yeah, and when you get to, I mean, you look around the league and you talk with other reporters. And, Adam Teicher, who covers the Chiefs, is one of good friends. He covered a lot of bad Chiefs teams over the years, and he had to watch a lot of bad football. So there's not a day goes by I don't remind myself how lucky I am to be able to watch a team that's this good and to watch a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes day in and day out. That's just something that a lot of people don't get to experience, much less in this business. You usually have to watch a lot of bad football, and I've been lucky that I haven't had to watch very much bad football up here.
Now to kind of the goal at hand, so to speak, with Buffalo coming in this weekend. It's back to back years that they played Buffalo in the playoffs. Last year in the AFC Championship game, but earlier this season, back on Metric Day, October 10th, 10-10, Buffalo kind of blows the Chiefs out a little bit. They turn the ball over 4 times, 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles. You got Emmanuel Sanders for Buffalo catches 2 touchdowns passes in that game. He's caught 23 passes in the next 12 games, but none of them in the end zone. So an outlier there. Before we get into maybe the biggest question of the day, what are your thoughts here going into this Week 19 game?
Yeah, a lot of people go to the Titans game a couple of weeks later as kind of the dividing line between this Chiefs season, but to me, it started that game against Buffalo. I mean, that was the low water point for this Chiefs team. After that game, they were number 32 in the league in scoring, defense, and dead last in a lot of other categories too. And the next week against Washington, things started to pick up. And now in the last, 12 games since then, they've been the best scoring defense in the league. So this is not the same Chiefs team that Buffalo saw. Buffalo, obviously, offensively, they were not just virtually perfect, they were literally perfect last week against the Patriots. So there's no doubt that they're on a roll. But to me, that Week 5 game just doesn't tell you much about where these two teams are right now because that Chiefs defense is completely different. I think the offense is playing even better at this point. I mean, we should have a great matchup this weekend. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up playing out as the best game of the NFL postseason this year because I think that these are certainly two of, if not the two best, but definitely two of the 3 best teams left.
Yeah, you talk about that defense. Melvin Ingram's got to be considered at least for our defensive MVP. Because that was kind of where it started. I think moving Chris Jones back inside.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even beyond that, I mean, just the ability to put Chris Jones back at his premier position and where he is best. It's some of the other intangibles that Melvin Ingram has brought too. I mean, everybody thinks of him as an edge rusher, but honestly, his run defense has been just as important. I mean, I think you could certainly make the argument that he's their best run defender on the edge as well. And on top of that, he's fit in really well with that locker room. I mean, it didn't work out for him in Pittsburgh, and there's a lot of reasons why things might work out with one team, but they certainly have clicked in Kansas City from the day that he got here. Everybody seems to get along really well. They certainly play together very well. And there's no doubt. I mean, there's definitely another line there when you look at this defense before Melvin Ingram showed up and since he's been here, and just how well that unit has played.
Now for kind of the elephant in the room, and I don't know what the decisions have been made yet with regards to Willie Gay, and everyone knows his circumstance. A couple of nights ago, breaking a vacuum and maybe some other things. But what's the latest there in Kansas City?
Yeah, just got off the Zoom with Coach Reed, and he told us that yes, Willie Gay will play on Sunday. That he did practice on Friday. Did not go into the details of what exactly the two of them talked about, but Reed said that he did talk to Willie Gay about the situation. The Chiefs did vet the situation, which for them normally would mean talking to the authorities and getting a little bit more information than is just in the police report. So by Andy Reid telling us that he's going to play, I mean, and clearly the Chiefs, one, don't feel like that's going to be a distraction for Willie. And two, they don't feel like that this is an incident that should keep him off the field. So we'll see what happens. But as of right now, Friday, barring any other developments, I mean, Willie Gay will play for the Chiefs on Sunday. And I think that they do need him against this Bills offense.
Oh, absolutely. Now you've got a situation now where you go back to that Week 5 matchup with the Bills, and Josh Allen was leading rusher in that game for Buffalo. What steps do you think they're going to take maybe to maybe put a spy on him, and that may be Willie Gay, that maybe spy him and try and keep him in the backfield.
Yeah, I got a chance to ask Anthony Hitchens earlier today, what was really some of the issue there, because they really got bit by Josh Allen on the first couple of drives in that Week 5 game, and they were better at stopping some of those designed runs later on. But he said a big part of it was just adjusting their eyes. You don't see a guy like Josh Allen with his size and speed and ability to run the football like that. And he's like, it takes some getting used to. I would not be surprised if the Chiefs this week, used maybe some other guys as a scout team quarterback. You get somebody with some speed and some strength back there, not just a quarterback, but Derrick McKinnon, for example, earlier this season played scout team quarterback for Lamar Jackson when they were preparing to play the Ravens. So it wouldn't have surprised me if they used somebody differently to put somebody in the backfield so the defense could just get used to the speed that Allen has and the athleticism, because that I think is the biggest deal, is that you've got to get adjusted to that quickly. You can't, against Josh Allen, you can't let him get settled in for a drive or two before you zero in on him. You've got to be ready to stop him from snap one.
And typically over the last couple of years, your Spagnuolo's defense has taken a little bit to kind of come around with regards to being able to stop folks, and maybe even the assignments, and maybe the characters that are on the field. What changes have you seen that have been made since that Week 5, and maybe even 6 or 7 coming into over the past 3 months? They've really been outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, one of them has been some personnel. I mean, Dan Sorensen really struggled the first couple of months in the season, and getting Juan Thornhill into the lineup full time has been a big difference maker. Being healthy is a big part of it. I mean, the first month or so of the season, Chris Jones, Frank Clark, Willie Gay, Traverse Ward, were dealing with a lot of injuries. And that Week 5 game, remember, I believe didn't have Anthony Hitchens, didn't have Ward. Willie Gay and Frank Clark were both dinged up, even though they did play in that game. Health has been a big part of it, but the other part too is just I think maturity and growing up of this team. I mean, Nick Bolton has been a huge part of this defense, and just him getting settled in and comfortable. Willie Gay is continuing to grow and mature. I mean, remember, the guy without a lot of college experience, he's still kind of learning on the job. I don't think there's any doubt that this team just looks more confident and comfortable than they did, just even a couple of months ago.
And a lot's been made also with regards to comparing, uh, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes to Brady and Manning, and going back maybe even to our era, maybe it's a Montana Aikman, in the NFC, Jim Kelly and whomever in the AFC, but it was pretty much just Jim Kelly, maybe a little bit of John Elway. But do you see that? I think in order for that to come true, I think Allen's got to get to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I made my nerd joke earlier this week. This at this point, the Chiefs turned themselves into Darth Vader. And if the Bills and Josh Allen want to be a Jedi, they've got to go through Darth Vader to do it. I mean, they must face Darth Vader again. And that's who the Chiefs are. I mean, that's who they are in the AFC. I mean, if you're going to go to the Super Bowl, it goes through the Chiefs and it goes through Arrowhead. So, yeah, I mean, this is the dragon that the Bills have to slay. And the Chiefs have been there too. I mean, they had to do the exact same thing with the Patriots. That's a team that they had to get through to break through the hump. If they do, hey, Josh Allen might rattle off a few Super Bowls just like Patrick Mahomes has. But that experience is a big, I think, a big factor when you get to this point in the playoffs.
Now we sit here on a Friday at 20 till 3. Between now and game time Sunday afternoon or evening, what's on your docket? What are some things you're going to be focusing on?
Got quite a few stories that I need to finish up. It's been a lot of interviews this week. I've had some great conversations with Sean McDermott and Steve Spagnuolo about their time together in Philadelphia under Andy Reid, and how significant that was to them. Not only were they on the same staff, Leslie Frazier, who's the defensive coordinator for the Bills, was also on that same staff. So This is as Steve told me yesterday. This is kind of a brotherly fight this weekend. And a few other things just breaking down the game. Got some stuff from Chris Jones and Anthony Hitchens talking about Josh Allen. So for me, the next 36 hours, it's going to be finishing up a lot of the previews and some of the stories I've been working on, and then Sunday game day, and then that's a full day right there.
Where will you be posted up on game day?
Yeah, I try to get to the stadium for that kind of game. I'll be over there about 4 hours ahead of time, and I'll be in my seat in the press box. So hopefully, gladly will not be out in the cold. That won't be as cold on Sunday as it is right now. It's going to be a little bit warmer, so we got that going for us. But yeah, for me on game days, yeah, it's usually about 12 to 16 hours in the press box, depending on how things go and how late it is.
What do you think, or hope maybe, the headline's going to be on Monday morning?
I think the headline's going to be Chiefs are going to the AFC Championship game, and I think there's a pretty good chance they're going to be going on the road for Patrick Mahomes' first true road playoff game. We'll see what happens on the other side of the bracket too, but I really like the Titans. I like Mike Vrabel. I think he's the best coach on that side, the most experienced team. This would be his second. Remember, if he wins that game, he'll be his second trip to the AFC Championship game in 3 years, and I think that says a lot about the Titans and their coaching. But I think the Chiefs get it done, and I think that's what we're talking about on Monday.
All right, outside of Patrick Mahomes, who's the MVP if the Chiefs win?
It's you probably do have to go on the defensive side, and there's a lot of choices there. But I actually think the team that plays the best defense is going to win this game. So I probably should go with a Chris Jones or a Melvin Ingram or a Tyrann Mathieu. But it's hard for me not to go with Travis Kelce because that's the guy that outside of Mahomes, this offense goes through, and he's had such big moments the last few weeks. You can see, he's really starting to feel those postseason juices. That guy in the playoffs, I'm never going to bet against Travis Kelce.
All right, very, very good. Well, Matt, hey, as always, I'm just so happy to get to visit with you and then kind of put a face with the voice and the name. And thanks so much for being generous with your time. I know you've got all these stories coming up, but to sit down and talk with us, I'm honored.
Absolutely, it's a blast. I always like to catch up with folks from back home, and I love following you to keep in touch and keep track of everything going on down there. So I appreciate it, guy.
Hey, you bet. Matt Derrick, ChiefsDigest.com. Keep it right here at Missouri Sports Network.